Hello, this is Firefly. Welcome to Northwest Airfield on Guam, home of the Blacksheep Squadron on Serpent's VVF 214 multiplayer server. While waiting for the Corsair module, we are preparing to fly missions in the Pacific theater of World War II already. And yeah, on our server you can fly PvP style fun missions with dogfighting, etc., and also explore more realistic, mission type flying, I like to call it, towards the direction of milsimming, etc. For example, on the server we don't use GPS markers for our own airplane on the map, so basically you don't know where you are. In World War II you didn't have GPS. Also on the map it doesn't mark enemy units, so most of the things have to be discovered by scouting flights and later reported to the crew, to the squadron, so people can actually go hunt and destroy things. So today I want to demonstrate how a mission can be flown on our server with actually planning it beforehand, then flying the mission, and afterwards how to do a short debrief slash patrol report for the squadron to let them know what happened, what you found. So let's leave the cockpit once more and go to the planning tent to do the mission planning. See you there. Planning a mission for the Blacksheep can be more or less complicated depending on how much time you have, etc. Today I want to just use these steps here, planning steps. What is the battle picture, the situation before the mission? What is actually our objective? That's always good to know in live and in simming, what you want to achieve. Then how to get to the target area where we fly our mission by navigation, how much fuel to take, what armament, if any, and yeah, that's basically what I want to cover today in this mission. So, first thing, battle picture situation. This is already about a week old, but what we can see is we have discovered some enemy activity to the north of our home base, airfield, Northwest Island, Guam. So near Rota there's fighters, IJN fighters. We discovered a destroyer here to the northwest, and just recently some submarines started to appear near the coast, so they pose a threat and this needs to be addressed. As a matter of fact, coast watchers near Oroti Harbor detected a periscope near Oroti Harbor earlier this morning, and since we don't have any of our submarines near Guam, this can only mean there is an enemy submarine out there. So Blacksheep Squadron has been tasked with finding and destroying this submarine which poses a threat to our ships in Oroti Harbor. So our objective today will be a submission, search for and attack any enemy IJN subs near Oroti Harbor. So this will be our mission. Navigation, how to get there? Well, actually it's not very difficult. You can already see it's on the same island, but since navigation will be a big topic in the future in our squadron, I want to go a bit more into detail with this on this easy and short mission. So let's plan the navigation. If we look on the F10 map, once you join the server, you can go on the F10 map, and then you can measure distances from here, Northwest Airfield, to the harbor, for example. You can choose different views. I like the old normal paper map view, just for sake of immersion. Yeah, if we measure distance and direction heading there, you can see it's about 16 nautical miles to the southwest on a heading of 232 degrees. And you can already see here there are two headings or directions given. This first one here is the direction relative to the orientation to the geographic North Pole. So this is the true course, true heading. And since we cannot measure this directly, where is the geographic north, we have a compass in our warbird, which shows us the magnetic heading we are flying. So here in the Pacific in 1944, the difference is not a lot, just 2 degrees. To the west it's a bit less, and to the east, southeast, it's a bit more. You can even see it here on the compass rose on the F10 map. If you want to get the magnetic heading, the true north, you just take the magnetic heading and you add almost 2 degrees here in this case to get the true north, the true course. So this is the difference between these two numbers. In planning, we often use the true directions because with the wind direction, etc., this is important. And then at the last step, you can just convert this to the magnetic heading, and this is what you fly in the mission. So there are lots of factors. Everything that you use for navigation in a contemporary plane or in reality is also modeled in DCS, and all this needs to be taken into account when doing all your navigation calculations. I like to use a table for this, where I put all the numbers that I use during the navigation, and this looks already quite a lot, but in the end you only use the last 3 columns with your indicated airspeed on the gauge in the cockpit, the flight time you are flying, and then the heading you are flying. So, and after this time ends, you know you got there, or you should have gotten there. So now we start entering all the numbers. 16 nautical miles. The course, the true course, is 232. The altitude is important. I don't know if we really go that high up, but yeah, 7,000 feet is for our calculations. And now you can see there's the wind correction, then the true heading after the wind correction, the ground speed, which we also have to get. This can be quite complicated, but using this rows here, this wind rows, can make this a bit easier. We'll get to this a little bit later. So we have to find a speed at which to fly. I want to look at my cockpit gauge, the airspeed indicator, and I want to set it at 200 miles per hour. That is what the gauge is showing. It's using the statute miles per hour. Okay, I set this in the cockpit, and then this has to be converted into knots and into true airspeed, and then the ground speed, which is used for calculations. Here's a little table, or some numbers how to convert this. If I have the indicated airspeed of 200 miles per hour, if I convert this to knots, this should be about 174 knots. Again, indicated airspeed, what is on the gauge. And at 7,000 feet and at a certain temperature, which is not so important today, this translates to 192 knots true airspeed. So this is the speed with which the airplane is going through the air. Yeah, what is shown on the gauge is not exactly the speed which is shown there. There's some technical errors there. There's also the altitude is important. The higher you go, the faster your true airspeed will be, even though on the gauge it shows the same number, and also the temperature affects this. So for today, if you calculate this, we get to 192 knots true airspeed. A later video, or more than one video, will cover how to actually get these numbers. So 192 knots airspeed, true airspeed. This is now used to calculate the wind correction. If the wind stays the same on the server, here today the wind is coming from 059 degrees at 14 knots. If the wind stays the same, we can just use this wind correction rows, or what you want to call it, to do this. In blue, here you see the wind direction from 059 to 239, and our course almost the same kind of the same direction, just in general, to Oroti Harbor at 232. Since the wind is coming almost directly from behind, it is pushing us and making us faster. Our true airspeed is 192 knots, and adding the 14 knots of the wind speed to it, we get 206 knots as our ground speed. This is the number which we are looking for our calculations. 206 knots ground speed. If we fly in a different direction, like 330 or 333 degrees, the wind would come from the right, push us to the left, and we would have to correct our heading by here 3 degrees to the right to compensate for this wind drift. But since the wind came here from the right, it's not changing our speed, so true airspeed would be the same as ground speed. And depending on which heading you are taking on your mission, you can read the corrections here, and the numbers on the outside, they give you the final numbers. If your true airspeed is 240 knots, that is up here. If on your gauge you have an indicated airspeed of 250 miles per hour for all the fast flyers in our squadron. So, but we are going slower, so actually wind correction is a bit more. But yeah, it's 14 knots added to our speed today, but nothing to the direction. Actually, the wind is coming a bit from the left, so pushing our plane to the right, so maybe 1 degree to the left could also be a good correction, but since we're not flying very far today, that doesn't matter very much. So our heading is 232, our wind correction is 0 degrees, so the true heading is the same as the true course. No wind drift correction, speed is corrected. So next thing is, what is the flight time at 206 knots ground speed? Yeah, we can use just an E6B calculator to do this. We set here our speed. This would be 200 knots. Here 210 knots. So 2, 4, 6. 206 knots. We are going 16 nautical miles. Here it would be 4 minutes, 5 minutes, that would be 4.5 minutes, so maybe 4 minutes and 40. You can also use one of the online calculators. Our course 232. True airspeed was 192 degrees. The wind direction from 059. The speed is 14 knots. Yeah, here you see the wind correction angle is -1 degree to the left, but we will stay with 0 for our mission. Yeah, the adjusted heading, ground speed 206 knots. That's what we got, 206 knots, and the distance is 16 miles, so it's 4 minutes and 40. And here you can also see this as a picture. Okay, so last thing, magnetic heading. If we go at a heading of true heading 232 degrees, then that's 230 on the compass. So, and again, for the mission, this is just what we need, the last 3 numbers. Let's add those to the plan. 4 minutes 40 at 200 mph indicated airspeed. No. At 230 degrees. Yeah, we don't need to add true or magnetic here in the airplane. It is always magnetic. Fuel considerations. Yeah, in 4 minutes and on the way back, so let's say 10 minutes for both ways, we're not spending a lot of fuel. Calculation would be about 100 gallons of fuel consumption per hour flight if we use a lower energy power setting for 200 miles per hour indicated airspeed. So yeah, if we just calculate with 1 hour, 100 gallons, and let's take 50 gallons as a reserve, then we just take 150 gallons of fuel. Armament, guns of course, and let's take 2 bombs in case we find the sub. So these are the planning considerations for today's mission. And now let's go back to the cockpit and fly the mission. See you there. Now we are back in the cockpit and ready to fly our mission. I always like to start the engine first because it needs a bit of time to warm up. So, fuel, generator on, magnetos on, battery on, parking brake very important. Let's prime the engine, put some fuel in there. Make contact with the brushes here. And now get the flywheel spinning for 10 to 15 seconds. And then engage and mixture to auto rich. Ah yeah, old mistake. Didn't check my throttle position before. So we can already go between 1000 and 1500 RPM to speed up the warming procedure. Yeah, and now let's take fuel. We said 150 gallons would be enough. I guess about 40% here. The 2 bombs.
Request refueling. Request
Copy.
rearming.
Copy.
Now that the engine's warming up, we can trim for takeoff. What else? Check gun sight brightness. Let's not arm the bombs, the guns, but just turn the gun sight on. Then I like to put my seat position back and adjust the height of the seat. Let's put the cooler shutters to neutral. You can close them, of course, to speed up the warm-up process. But I'm doing it like this now.
Refueling complete.
Okay, set the altimeter to 0 altitude, and that's because I want to come back to this airfield, and then I know at 0 this is where the runway is. Okay, refueling complete. We are at a bit above 150 gallons.
Rearming complete.
That's good. Rearming is complete. Let's see if this really worked. Yes, there are our 2 bombs. Also, I see the landing lights are not on yet. I'll just change that. Okay, so that should make a difference. Yeah. Actually, we don't need the flashlight here. Is it retracting? No. Now it's retracting under the left wing. Okay, good. So, yeah, engine is warmed up. We can go down on the RPM here, turn on the radio. So, okay, let's turn on to the runway. Gyro we do later. Firefly taxiing to runway. Okay, parking brakes again. Flaps down a little bit. Lock tail wheel. Okay, cooler shutters are where they're supposed to be. I think we are ready for takeoff. Firefly taking off. It's already feeding in a little bit of right rudder here, but steering with the toe brakes. Gear up. Flaps up. RPM down to 40. Manifold pressure to 40. RPM 2500. Stabilize here in level flight. Trimming. Okay, now go back on the power to 30 inches and 2000 RPM. So this is my power setting for the cruise. Turning back to the runway. Also, I have my stopwatch ready. I know, 4 minutes and 40 seconds of flight time. So now I have to speed up again to 200 miles per hour. And we said 232. Looking at my compass now. Trimming. We are at 2.3, maybe a little bit more. I can check in F2 view. 231, and if I look over my nose, I see just the beginning of the harbor there, so heading is right. Yeah, so today we don't really need I just forgot to start the stopwatch. But we are near the airfield. A little bit to the right. Yeah, so we started a little bit to the right of the runway. That's why we come out here a little bit to the right as well. But overall it's okay. Okay, this is a patrol mission. Hunter sub patrol, so I can arm my bombs already. So belly left and right. Bombs are armed. We'll leave it on auto rich. In DCS, we found out it doesn't really matter if you fly on auto-rich mixture or lean mixture. The fuel consumption is the same, at least for the altitudes we tested until now up to 10,000 feet, maybe up higher makes a difference, but that we still need to check. Yeah, speed is too fast, so it doesn't really make sense to check the time here. I'm going back a little bit. When you fly Dead Reckoning, you really have to watch your airspeed all the time. Yeah, about 10% too fast, 220 instead of 200. So I'm expecting to be there a bit before the 4 minutes and 40 end, but also we started the stopwatch a little bit late, so maybe that just compensates for our flying faster. I don't know. We will see. So this is the harbor. There are our ships. There's the harbor entrance, and the submarine was reported from near the entrance of the harbor. Okay, that's where we have to look. Also, it makes sense to check 6 all the time. This is a hostile environment here. At any time you can be bounced by enemy fighters. Still too fast. Going back on RPM here a little bit. Trimming again. Always trim. And I can, of course, turn off my landing lights. We are at 3 minutes 40. Yeah. So we are arriving a bit early on target, because we have been a bit too fast in comparing to our flight plan. Oh, there it is. There is the submarine. Okay, let's line up for our attack. Increase power. 40 inches. RPM, I think that was in the wrong order. I think RPM should be increased first and then power. There's the sub. Well visible, that's nice. Let's gain a bit of altitude. I want to align along the same direction of the submarine. Drop the bombs a bit before its bow. And from a bit higher altitude, I'm deploying my compressibility flaps here, so I don't get too fast, or if I get too fast, then still can control the aircraft. Already coming back a bit on power here. So where is it? Yeah, it's hardly visible there. Can see it. There it is. Okay, now I have to watch coordinated flight. The ball is there. Where is it? I lost it. There. And of course I didn't check that my bombs have a delayed fuse, so 1 away, 2 away. Oh, that was close. But probably didn't score any. There was no damage reported from the sub. Okay, let's do one more strafing run here. Our guns are not armed. Guns check. Did it surface? So that's maybe too short of an attack run. Yeah, that's too steep. Okay, let's calm down a little bit. They didn't shoot at me. Okay, let's do one more bombing run. Strafing run, correction. Okay. Attacking against the sun, that's not so good. Approaching double speed here, it looks like. So what is it? Where is it? There. This time we will attack from the direction of the sun. Temperatures still okay. Yeah. Well visible this time. Zero damage. Okay. Yeah, let's just call this in and send other guys to finish her. Compressibility flaps up. Power back to cruise settings, 30 and 2000. Again, I think it was the wrong order. RPM first, then manifold pressure. I have to look this up again. Starting my stopwatch. Maybe this time we can stay on speed a bit more, but of course now we are flying against the wind. That makes us slower. Slower than 192 knots. That's 188. 178. I'm using my analog E6B flight computer here. 178 knots for 16 nautical miles. That's less than 5.5 minutes, let's say 5:20. Already 5 minutes into this, 1 minute into this flight. Let's see how this works this time. T's and P's. Good. Speed is good. DCS is such a nice simulation. Also, the P-47 is a beautiful aircraft. This is our main airplane for our squadron until we get the Corsair. It has the same motor, so we can, same engine, so we can learn a lot by flying the P-47. So that's already our airfield. Are approaching at almost 2,000 above the runway. We are 3 minutes in. So it should be another 2 minutes about until we reach the scheduled end of our flight. Like here, we are a bit faster than 200 indicated airspeed. Three minutes 40. Yeah, just a tad fast here. Four minutes. 4.5 minutes. Yeah, so now this time our flight took about the time we scheduled for the other way. Okay, it's 4:50. Yeah, 5 minutes. So maybe that was because we are a bit fast on our indicator here, airspeed indicator. So let's get ready for landing. When flying multiplayer, it's always good to call in all the steps during your approach. Also, it can be useful to really ask for landing permission on busy days on the server. This is Firefly approaching Northwest Airfield from the west, standing by for landing permission. Altitude 2,000 feet. I will do one break over the airfield and then be on downwind leg. Landing against the wind. Oh, the gyro's messed up. Initiating brake over the runway. Also descending to about 1,000 feet. Power back. At RPM 25 to 2,700. Flaps down a bit. Landing gear down. Speed 150. Descending. Approaching 1,000 feet. I will unlock my tail wheel to make come to a quick stop after the touchdown. Okay, less than 1,000 feet. Speed already a bit slow. Firefly on base leg. Oh, approaching stall speed, have to increase power. Now I don't see the runway, that's not good. Guess it's there. Firefly on final. Approaching stall speed. Not good. Landing gear is down. Power to about 2,700 here. Maybe even lower. As I come down, I'm gaining speed here. Ah, flaps, maximum flaps, didn't do that. That's a major mistake here. Little bump here. Okay, now throttle back. Left hard rudder, left brake gives me a nice slide here to come to a fast stop. Of course, braking the landing gear here on the P-47. So of course this is not what you normally do after you land, but we are practicing for the carrier. So, and since the P-47 doesn't have an arresting hook for the carrier, we need to stop on the runway very quickly after touchdown. So this was just a practice for coming to a quick stop on the carrier. RPM to 1000. Parking brake. Turning off the engine. Increase power for a bit. Set mixture to idle cutoff. Engine is dying. I decrease the throttle to burn the last fuel in the engine. Cut off the fuel. Generator off. Magnetos off. Battery off. Okay, let's head back to the planning room for the debrief. And the patrol report. See you there. After the mission, you can just call it a day or go on the next flight, etc. But I invite you to think about making a short debrief after each mission, where you think about what went well, also what went wrong, what could be learned from today's mission, because DCS poses or has a lot of potential for learning about all kinds of aspects of flying, and it makes you a better pilot when you do this. I'm convinced. So it's called a debrief or after action report. Again, it can be longer, shorter, more formalized or informal. I always like to think about what went well. Like for today, we found the submarine, we attacked it, we made it back in one piece. That's big things that went well and make me happy. But also in thinking about what can I learn from today's mission, I think about what did not go well, what issues did I have, and they are listed here. So first of all, my time on target was not as planned, even though that was not so important today. The bomb fuses were not set before the flight for 5 seconds delay. Also, the guns were not armed when I initiated my strafing run. I attacked against the sun, that's not good, and also broke my landing gear during the landing afterwards when I did my little wheelie thing. So I can learn from this to observe my indicated airspeed regularly and start the stopwatch on time. Didn't do that. The bomb fuses in the guns. Okay, I need to put this in my checklists maybe, so I do this right after takeoff. Also when I attack, to think about things like the sun, the geography, etc. So it helps me in my attack run. And I want to practice my controlled wheelies so I don't break the landing gear. It's easy to break on the P-47 and hopefully it will not be the case in the Corsair when it's here. It's a carrier based aircraft, so it should be very sturdy on touchdowns. So these are the things I take from today's mission. Another thing we can do is write a patrol report for the squadron on our Discord server. We have this section, patrol reports, and it can be just a very short message like this. I observed the IGN submarine near Roti Harbor, attacked and observed no damage. And this can be longer, shorter. You can make it more or less role play. So I like to do them, and it's always nice to read from others what have they done and found on their missions. afterwards. This can even be a longer mission report, patrol report, where you log the time when you took off, at what time did you see what, can even include the server time. So because some ships, our carrier for example, they are on a longer route and the time is important. When exactly did you find something at a certain location, so others can calculate where maybe to find it an hour later or 2 hours later. Yeah, you can include pictures, some indications of where you found something, screenshots from the map, so that makes it feel more alive, in my opinion, and I like to do them. And yeah, so this is a very explicit or longer example how to do such a mission report. So yeah, that's it for this longer video today, and an introduction to mission planning and flying the mission, and afterwards how to do a debrief, maybe a mission report. So all of this is, of course, nobody has to do this, and if you just hop onto the server and fly a little bit and come back, that's fine as well. And we're happy to have you on our squadron, flying with us. And if you want to learn about these maybe more advanced things, then you are invited to do so. If you say, okay, I just fly along, that's fine as well. So we want to be a mixture of fun flying and more serious flying. Everybody has their own priorities when it comes to that. That's fine with us. We are happy to have you on our squadron, the VVMF 214 Blacksheep. See you around on the server, and goodbye for today.